Oh, yeah.
Oh, I like it.
I just couldn't wait for this. And I feel like I've been gone forever. I took
Wow.
off a couple weeks. I spent the last week, from week 40 to week 41, just being there, being ready. Honestly, I couldn't think of anything else. So doing other work wasn't that reasonable. And
Right.
then, a week ago, we had our daughter. And so did George a little more than a week ago. What's up, daddies?
Hey, big daddies here.
Yeah, papas.
Big papas.
I'm not even that haggard.
Not bad. No, you're looking pretty good, man. You guys are both looking pretty I'm looking a little heavier. Look at that.
I'm a little heavier. I'll admit, I'm a little heavier. It's, but I'm stronger too. Dad strength, it's real. Yeah, so we're here to just kind of dip my toes back into the water of live streaming, and tell some stories about having babies and being a dad, and also we're gonna get into the old Halloween, Samhain, esoteric, equinoctial, quaternity, incarnation cross, mystic meaning of this very silly holiday that is in the mainstream lost any semblance of sacredness or reverence, and it's all good. But George actually put me on to a book that was a nice, concise little tome about the esoteric truth of the Halloween holiday, and it was great. So we'll talk about that too, and it actually lines up really well with talking about incarnating a new being into the world. So I don't know what kind of an introduction that was. I'm all over the place. I'm just like exploding with happiness and stoked for life. So Slick, George, how you guys doing? Let's start with you, George. Welcome to the Vibe Rant.
Thank you. It is very good to be back. It's been a long time. Had a few invites that I couldn't make over the past few months, and those were sad moments. This is a very happy moment. I wear this shirt on the most special of occasions with me and Petra on here, so I have it on for.
Beautiful.
This is
I thought it was like Weird Al and somebody.
No. This is a very special occasion for me. I
just got Weird Al on the brain because I found out our daughter has the same birthday as Weird Al Yankovic, and I was like, I'll take it.
Wow. Oh yeah, you did mention that. That's funny. We've been sending pictures of back and forth of our new daughters. It's pretty amazing. And this time around, this is number 3 for me, and it's even more unique because the two of them are old enough to they're coming in, they're kissing her goodnight, they're asking about her, and they're making sure she's okay. It's incredible. We had a home birth, of course.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. We had a home birth, and the older daughter, who's 4, she's like, "You're doing great, Mom," during the whole thing. Incredible, really, like predictably amazing, I guess. I was going to say unpredictable. It's not. We did as predictably amazing as we knew we would. I know you did too, Chance, and I think we made.
Yeah, we're going to tell our birth stories, George. We're going to tell those. That'll be how we kick off. Not to interrupt, but
no.
It's all amazing.
This intro stuff.
George, will you say her name for me? Her full name?
Indigo Autumn Lark Mesa.
Such a beautiful name. Both of you chose beautiful names. Oh, yeah. I'm so happy to be intertangled in the fates of these children.
Wow.
Yeah, you're really pretty deep into the fate of our daughter. So we named our little girl, my firstborn, Gracie Gabriella Garton. And I just don't think there could really be a more magical name. Let me get a screen share going here.
It's so magical. It's so magical. And you guys, are hitting on notes linguistically that hit so close to my own heart. The remedial virtue of the number 2 personality type, which the old self was a strong number 2. I was a strong giver back in the day, and I still have a lot of pride. But the remedial virtue of the giver is grace. The grace is the remedial virtue of the number 2 personality type.
Wow.
And my name, Gabriel, is basically a play on the word, the giver. I am a real giver, and grace has been a life lesson for me personally. And you guys are naming your daughter my own life lessons. It's so beautiful. I just love this.
Wow.
Yeah. So we picked the name. To me, I figured, I don't know. I just wanted it to be Gracie. And then I started working around that. with, the numbers too.
Yeah.
And I found Gracie is 26. So that gives you the same numerical equivalent as the Yod He Vav He. So there's some divinity. Gracie instead of just grace. Love that. And also it sounds like grazie. It's like you say grace when you're giving thanks before a meal. Why not just make it grazie too?
That's what's up.
Gracie, Gabriella. Now the Gabriella, of course, has got Gabe in it and Gabriel. And it's got Ella, which is the name of this is also kind of a trip. Jennifer's from Canada, right? Moved here 2 years ago and found out after she got here that she has a great grandmother named Ella, who is from Ava, Missouri, 1 hour from where we live.
Whoa.
So she's got to have like a bunch of relatives out here.
Yeah.
Just kind of long lost relatives. We're going to hunt for that as we can. So that's where Gabriella comes in, but with one L for the gematria, because when you type in Garton at the end, 77.
Boom.
GGG.
Wow.
777 on the initials. It's like it's off the hook.
Totally off the hook.
Yeah, and it's cute. It's a cute name.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
You done any like number mysticism on yours? I mean, your daughter's got a gorgeous name too, and you don't have to get all weird like that, like I did. But
no, we will, but we have not. No, not yet.
Because like to me, whenever I added that up, that was like a clincher moment for me. I was like, oh, this must be the one because it's my favorite one that we've come up with so far. And then look at the numbers. It's just you gotta have one L, Gabriella.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, can we put the name in right now? Actually,
yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. I want to see. I want to.
Brenda says there wasn't all this name pressure 30 years ago.
I know, that's funny.
That's so true.
Oh, the other thing too, Jennifer just reminded me. So Ella is Jen's great grandmother. My great grandmother, I have a great grandmother named Grace. So we have a Grace Garton. So there's a double great grandmother. And then the wildest thing is the first thing I thought when I saw the baby's face was like, you look like my mom's mom. She looks like my mom's mom. It's trippy. And that was kind of my closest grandparent. And all my grandparents were great to me. I love them all, but I was really close with my mom's mom. So thanks for reminding me that. Yeah, there's so much magic.
Wow.
Let's type it in. Okay, buddy. How do I spell
look-see.
this? Indigo?
Right.
24. It's a good
All
number.
right.
Autumn? Right?
Yep.
24 letters in the Greek alphabet.
Nice.
Right.
And there's a third. She's got two middle names, right?
Yes. Lark.
Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh.
Yeah, man.
7.
Whoa.
7.
Wow.
And here's the
Shut
other
the
thing
door.
too. Yours was it was 23, 25. What was the first two? 23, 25? 23, 26?
20, 26.
26, 28. Right? So you had +2 and might have -2 on the first ones.
Yeah, 26, 28, 23 for mine.
Yeah, so there's still like interval of 2. Very interesting, man.
Yeah.
Dude, so the 7 returns.
And we have 3
7.
7s. Triple
You
7.
get the 770 in
Wow.
yours.
That was a trip.
You have
And
3
now if we're
7s
just
and
doing-
G is 7.
If we're just doing the first letter initials,
Right.
I'm already forgetting the
L.
third. L, right. Lark, right. So cool. 5121. Very cool. Very cool.
Nice.
I love how you said that there wasn't so much name pressure.
Yeah, I
Wait,
know. That's so funny.
But it's I even think about it like maybe it's even, there was plenty, but now it's like a redonkulous amount because we have gematrinators in every cipher possible and everybody's
I like
got
to
pet
just keep it
numbers.
simple. This is the septenary cipher,
Right.
which is great because obviously it's all encoded. Gracie's all encoded out the wazoo with 7s. And this is
Yeah.
the cipher of 7s.
Totally.
Wow. And we had
Jenny says, on the morning of going into labor, she was chatting with George's wife, Petra, on the pressure of going overdue because we were 41 weeks. And she said, to give myself grace.
Yeah, she
And then that
did.
day, she gets off the call or the chat with Petra and then immediately starts labor. Like literally second she gets off the call.
This is Petra, man. She is so powerful. It's crazy. She sends the right vibes at all times. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
I'm
She's
so glad to
awesome.
be around.
This feels good, guys. This
Yeah,
is just
this is
complete self-indulgence talking.
I know. Yeah.
I don't care at all. This feels awesome. Tell us your labor story, then I'll tell you mine. You tell me yours, I'll tell you mine.
We, well, she was very early for her last 4 births. So we expected it to also be a week or so early. That would have placed it right on her birthday of October 7th. So we were kind of hoping for this double birthday thing, right? And an interesting side story is that I didn't get a cake necessarily for the birthday because I'm like, what if I get the cake and set up this whole thing and we got a birth and everything's shot? So I asked for a cake same day, and we met this older woman named Tammy down the road, much older. She made us this cake. She made another one when the baby was born. We made a friend out of this, which was really cool, actually. It's a great area, to meet people around here. So a few days later, she had like an almost, she was feeling it. I didn't do any work. I just kind of sat with her all night. Everything was fine. Then a few days later, she woke up and, things were definitely different this time. So I called the doulas that we had on call. I called the midwife because she was much farther away than the doulas, and none of them got here in time. So we didn't have time to set up we had a pool in here. No way I was going to inflate that thing and fill it up with hot water. Wasn't happening. So she made her way to the bathtub. Things started escalating. And then most magical moment of all time for me personally, I was able to keep my hands underneath and catch this baby on the way out.
Wow.
It was an incredible thing. Oh,
wow. You caught the baby.
Yes. And it was the only thing it was all her, but I had this moment to myself it was incredible, and we had this.
I summoned the baby in my story, but I didn't catch it.
Wow.
And 40-inch umbilical cord, which is apparently way above average.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. Our baby actually had a short umbilical cord, so we have like a yin yang going on there.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. So, and there it was. We unwrapped it. It was it was here, but it wasn't making anything crazy. And it was just all systems go. This baby was just perfect from the start. She's sleeping. The kids are just all over her all the time, and she's already smiling and all this stuff. She has what looks like Petra's eyes, as I showed you in a picture or two that we, throwing back and forth our blue-eyed pictures. And it's just amazing, really. It was, and I'm thankfully it wasn't a long labor. She was, about an hour and a half for the most part. And because the last birth was a much, much, much longer labor.
Hour and a half? You mean even active labor?
Pretty much.
Like there was early labor though.
Kind of, it really just sort of, would you say it was an hour and a half of active labor?
She's right here.
Hour and 25 minutes active labor.
That's insane.
Oh my gosh.
So since your wife can hear me and my wife can hear me, wives, if you need us, we'll drop what we're doing and Gabe will just pontificate.
Yes, fine. When needed. If needed, when needed.
Happy to step in. Totally happy.
Very cool. Very cool.
So we're not going to show photos of babies for the sake of baby's privacy, but my baby definitely has the identical eyes to me. It's pretty cool. Definitely mine. Well, that's a good story, dude. So I go to the gym on the morning of baby's birth a week ago, and while I'm there, I get a text from Jennifer. I'm assuming right after she gets off talking to Petra. And she's like, having big feels right now. And I'm like, I'm coming home now. And she's like, oh no, it's definitely not like, it's no alarm. It's fine. Take your time.
Right.
And I was like, that definitely means I need to come home now. So I get home and she, there's this 5-1-1 rule where it's like contractions 5 minutes apart, 1 minute long for an hour. And that means it's go time, like leave, go to wherever you're going to give birth if you're going somewhere. Well, Jennifer was there like instantly. She was at 5-1-1 instantly. She had this idea like, oh, I'm going to have early labor. We'll watch a movie. I'll do some gardening. I'll putz around. I'll finish packing my bag.
Right.
No. And my Jen is the sweetest angel of all time. And when she's in this early labor, she was grumpy. I mean, not like bad, but it was like 2 times. Like she needed me to find something and I couldn't find it. And she's like, it's right there. It's right there. How do you? And I was like, this is serious. This must be really intense. But she was completely lovely and incredible during the whole labor. I'm not trying to paint her out to be a bully. She's actually the sweetest woman in the world. So it's just funny that, that moment of it's right there. So we pack up the car as fast as we can, and I take her over to the birth center. It's like 7 minutes from our house. It is a house. So we did a home birth, but it's in this home where midwives do and doulas do, like, you know, prenatal checkups and have a couple of rooms where mamas can come to give birth, which for us was a necessity because we have crazy dogs. And, you know, the beauty of that is that they set up for you and they clean up for you. So you're and they also will, like, you know, especially for us being first timers, coach us through some of the process. Well, they were honestly underprepared because there was a baby storm. Like there was like there's like 3 women, 4 were due, and like 3 women, two, including my wife, were going into labor at the same time. It was also like everyone's day off at the same time. Very funny. So we actually didn't even have a midwife there. We just had we had a couple of the like nurse midwives in training ladies, 2 of them, and they were wonderful. And they were completely fine and experienced to guide through the process, but they were kind of maybe not ready for how fast it was going to progress for Jennifer. And I attribute it to the fact that she has just 0 resistance in her body. She's like, yes to everything. She says yes to every feeling, lets it happen, doesn't stop it at all. It was beautiful to watch. You know, we put her in a shower and let her have big contractions. I'm rubbing her back, and they're like, we don't need to get the pool ready yet. We don't. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. This is happening. This is happening now. She's pushing. Like, she's not trying to push. Her body's making her push. We need the pool. So they set that up. All in all, we were at the birth center from time of arrival to baby coming, less than 3 hours, like 2.5 hours. Get her in the pool. She's probably in the pool for about an hour and 15. And she's doing her pushing. She's, you know, I remember the moment of truth was like, they said, oh, we can kind of see the sack. We can see the sack coming through a little bit because the water hadn't broke. And at that point, Jennifer kind of comes out of her trip for a second and looks at me, and she's like, I know what I have to do, but I'm scared to do it. And I'm like, you got this. I went and grabbed my giant tuning fork, the Big Daddy one, and I hit it. And it was the only time I hit it during the whole day or labor. Hit the big fork and walked around the pool in a circle. Next contraction, baby flew out.
Yeah, buddy.
That is so cool.
It was pretty. I was like, I've summoned my child. Yeah, she came. She popped out wide awake. Best part is that it was 3:14. It's pi o'clock.
Oh,
she's a pious child. Extra special for us because we got married on March 14th for exactly that reason. Because, you know, we're math nerds. We're members of the congregation at the Gnostic Academy of Lord Jesus Christ. It's all about the transcendental numbers. So pious child. It was beautiful. And actually, she slept through the night every night. And even better and better each night. So when I say through the night, each night, I mean, like, you know, the first night, 6 hours, second night, 4 or 5 hours. Then after that, it's been 6 hours, 6 hours. Last night, 8 hours. I got like a full night's sleep. It's crazy. And then the best part of the day is in the morning. She'll be, after sleeping that long, she wakes up for like 3 hours. And we walk around and we talk. And she looks at me and she can move her head and pick up her head. And she's super strong and she's feisty. She's great. So I'm the proudest papa possible. Yeah, and I don't know if I'm forgetting anything else, but oh yeah, actually. One last detail that I thought was so cool because, you know, it's very auspicious to be born in the bag of waters. And I'm going to call that she was, but just that we didn't have to break the bag for her, but the bag was intact the entire time and broke as she exited. And it wasn't like she was pushing and partly out. It was like she came out in one shot and the bag broke then. So I call that born in the bag. That's good enough. Auspicious birth.
Totally.
And we're looking at this placenta. I showed Gabe the placenta. I'll let you comment on it. You made great comments. But the umbilical cord, which was kind of short, was actually grown into the amniotic sac in a very unusual way. Like it was grown into it, as opposed to, I guess, how it normally would be. And so that means that if baby had broke her waters earlier, it could have posed a risk, you know, with interfering with placenta's ability to protect baby. So to me, that's God stuff.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It's God stuff. The baby came exactly the way she needed to come. It was so cool. So cool.
was a super healthy placenta. I could tell right away. And yeah, I think my comment was like, I could tell you guys were not vegetarian. Nice and deep and red, you know. I remember my daughter's placenta was very healthy, but it even had like hues of purple in that tone where purple and gray are one and the same. And ever since I saw that, and I was like, is that gray or is that purple? I had never corresponded gray and purple to one another, but it makes perfect sense because white and black makes gray and red and blue makes purple. You know, they really are powerfully correspondent. And so, yeah, you guys had a deep, deep, healthy placenta. That was beautiful.
What I liked too about it is, you know, there's the tree of life in the placenta through all the big veins and stuff, but ours looked like roots. It looked like roots more than a tree. It was like a really unique placenta. They're all unique, right? It's like a fingerprint, but I'm very stoked on her placenta. And then another thing that was absolute magic, especially about baby's timing, was, okay, so Jennifer's from Canada. Her folks live in Canada, and her mom and aunt, and I'd never met this aunt before. They drove all the way from Calgary, Alberta, to Missouri, and we got to spend a good 3 days with them having fun and hanging out before baby came. And they got to be there along with my mom for baby's arrival, and got to be with Jen for a couple days postpartum. So like, great timing. Baby came right in the middle of their visit, literally the middle day. Genius, magical child. So, and she's in the chat right now. My mother-in-law, Heather, she's cool because she listens to my streams. My mom doesn't really, but my mom's a saint and too busy helping everybody all the time. She needs a little time off for her stuff, so she doesn't watch the stream, but she's still perfect. She's a great mom. Really great. Like, I don't even know how I'd do this without my parents. I'm, you know, to be honest, they're like very financially supportive, very physical help supportive. I think one or the other, my mom or dad, has come by every day to help me do something since baby's come. So it's all about that community, right?
Yeah, but
lucky to have the parents I have.
That's how it's meant to be.
Or blessed is the word.
It's nice that elements from the motherland came to you and were there right on time. You know, I was in Colorado when I was having my baby, and my family came to visit, trying to coordinate with the arrival of the baby. And she stalled out on everybody. And so I had family in town for like the 2 weeks before the baby. And sure enough, as soon as they all hit the airplane and go home, that's when the baby starts knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, but that was cool because
it's like someone trying to poop with a crowd watching them.
Yeah, kind of. You're totally right. That's perfectly said. But the nifty thing was, because she dodged them, it gave me an excuse to hook them in for another trip out. So they just came out a couple of months later. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I'm pretty lucky too. I mean, I've always been lucky. And everyone that knows me for all these years I've been around knows I say it all the time. I know I'm lucky. I take advantage of it. I pass the savings on to everyone I possibly can. And
that's my philosophy.
Yeah, just pass the savings on to you, you know. And my mom just moved out here to Kentucky, you know, a month before this happened. This was the intention, to be here to help. And, you know, there's other doulas coming every few days to help her too, which is really great. They're bringing some food. They're, you know, fresh baked breads and all this other stuff. Great dishes that are very nourishing, very like soft, easy to eat. She's got Petra put together a really great, you know, recipe book for things that should be had postpartum. She got these great, what they look great. I don't know, these laxative. I'm not laxative. Milk produced laxative. Milk produced lactation cookies, brownies, great stuff.
Laxative. Oh yeah, my sister made us a whole batch of lactation cookies. I didn't get any, but they look good.
Well, you know, they're good though. Hey man, they're good. But she
must be nice.
She moved here. And then she was waiting for her place that she got right down the road to get filled in with bed, living room, all this stuff. So she was sleeping here every night until then. And she got the bed. She was out the night before. It just happened. Of course, divine timing as usual. And this is just the way it's just, everything just works the way it's supposed to if everything's aligned properly. It's about alignment. It's about being in connection of, you know, both sides of everything, just like the Halloween book says, which I'm sure we'll get into. There's a lot of parallels with this and that book, and even with the current political situation too, which I don't want to get into, but they're
Let's get
all
into all of it.
relative. They're all relative. Yeah. No, we could, but they know. And Petra says that the baby told her the name. We didn't necessarily choose Indigo. We weren't even talking about it. It's just there. It is. And my previous son was born in Call as well. He came out with just a bubble. It was incredible.
Wow.
All the luggage intact, in other words, at the port of entry.
Yeah, man. That is so cool. Guys, that's what they call that many things. It has so many names, the of the higher calling, a
The
man
veil.
of the veil, the man of the cloth, but it's also the cornerstone to the shining. In the book, it's not, they briefly cruise over it in the movie, but in the book, Danny is born in Call, and that's why he has his abilities. And then the curator of the museum or of the hotel also has the shine. He is also born in Call. And so, yeah, that is so significant. And some of the culture creators have really rooted that into our entertainment and our mysticism, into our mysticism.
Well, it's the ark.
It is the ark, buddy. It is the ark. It's so sacred. I love that the umbilical was like woven into the placenta for you guys.
That's cool.
Yeah, I bet like all of these things probably have names, They probably had names, different signs and auguries associated with it,
They're
along
total auguries.
Totally.
Let me see. I gotta ask.
And it's so fascinating that George had the 40 centimeter and you guys had the shorter, it's like a yin yang.
40 is quite a number itself.
It is.
Around this whole idea of like incarnation.
Right.
False Reality Check wants to know, did y'all keep the placenta? We did. Haven't decided what we were doing with it yet. It's more, I'm leaving that more up to Mama, other than to me, what mattered is that we honor it and respect it. I already made peace with it, blessed it, and received blessing from it, like in the moment. Gosh, I mean, I cut the cord. That was intense. Also, Legs over here and Buffalo, almost said y'all's real names. Probably wouldn't matter, but they had a baby earlier this year too. It's the baby era, as Jin says. They got a little dragon baby too. He's super cute, little baby Daniel. I've been exchanging baby photos with about a dozen people who have newborns that are my friends. It's crazy. It's blowing up right now. So everyone's like, not everyone, but the doomers and black pillars and the whole political situation. They're like, we're not making enough people, and I'm too busy complaining. Thinking of like a Nick Fuentes type. I'm too busy complaining about every other like race and demographic sucking, and being on my Catholic high horse, but I'm not actually making any humans myself. But we're being replaced. Replacement theory. What I see is the greatest people I know are having babies left and right. I went to the Bertaria Festival. I'm drinking this drink called Yes Honey. It's an apple flavor, apple honey beverage, just lightly carbonated, made by a bear who is local to my area. And it's the most delicious beverage ever. But so shout out to the Naked Chicks brand. You can find it in stores around Southwest Missouri. Anyway, there were more kids than adults at the Bertaria Festival this year. And those are all the greatest people you'll meet. Homesteading, homeschooling, awake to gravy, not sheeple. So there's a replacement going on. My theory is that the tide has turned for greatness to rise. That's what I feel like. It's like the retards at the DNC getting their balls clipped in a Oscar Mayer Wiener bus during the convention and being rewarded with a hot dog for having a free vasectomy.
Right. Look what I did.
Yeah, great. You guys can keep doing that.
Right.
I'm actually into it. Like, I thought eugenics was evil. Now I'm like, actually, it's kind of just an automatic process. Like, we don't even have to control it. It's nothing to worry about. It does it on its own. It's like,
oh man,
it's real.
It's the dink, right? The dink generation, double income, no kids.
Yeah, buddy.
Whew, that's a tough one to stomach, man. But they've been convinced that it's all right. So what are you going to do?
Well, it can only last one generation, so no big deal.
Doesn't really work, does it? Yeah, good point.
The anti-natalists, right? Anti-natalism. It's a kind of a strange thing. This that theory, Chance, that it'll only last one generation. and this is controversial and we don't have to go into it, but you would think the same thing would apply to homosexuality.
Mm.
You would think
Well, it has to be
homosexuality would breed itself out as well.
Well, that's why it has to be marketed.
Right. Isn't
And
that
it-
something?
and kind of, but it also has to be kind of inflicted. And
But-
also, I think that a lot of times it's not a complete binary.
Right.
You know, I think
That's
a lot of people go that way and they come back, or they are on the surface, they're the straight persuasion, but then, you know, on the shadow or in the closet, they're doing the other thing. And it's like, you know, you do you. My only thing is I don't think it should be celebrated in the public because it's not fruitful, and it leads people to feeling unfulfilled potentially. And like, but in, you know, privacy of your own home, whatever. I just read the symposium. I had to slog through all kinds of homoerotic.
Yeah, you did, buddy.
It's rough. I mean, but they at least treat it like, you know, they still treat it in a sacred way in that. So I think it's just the big pride circus part of it that is so damaging, really.
Right.
And like, that's why I'm into the idea of just making it not in the public.
Yeah.
You can't control people's lives or who they're attracted to. And
Totally.
I don't even think it's in and of itself sinful. I just think it's about fruit. You know, is it fruitful or not? And I think we should celebrate what's fruitful, and we just shouldn't push on people, like persuade them in the age before they even know left or right or who they are, that, you know, they're one thing or another. That's what's messed up. Because once you get that identity, it can be hard to shake identities.
Totally.
But it's not even really you. It's like everything's a choice. I find that in tuning all the time. You always have a choice.
What gets me is the way that the narrative implodes on itself intrinsically when we are asking, is it nature or is it nurture? And then we go with homosexuality as an example. You put it in the equation, and the equation implodes because homosexuality cannot be transmitted through genetics.
Right.
Only heterosexuality is transmitted through genetics, because transmitting genetics is heterosexual in its essence. And so
it's more epigenetic, maybe.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to just state that it's like the one exception to it cannot be transmitted genetically because it's anti-genetic transmission in its foundation. It's kind of fascinating there.
I reckon we just have a completely backwards idea of genetic and hereditary transmission altogether, honestly.
Oh, you know what?
But that's a side weave.
You know, on that note, you know, L. Ron Hubbard had this really fascinating prescription for obstetric practice, and that is that he recommended, and I think the Scientologists are kind of militant about this. Like, they'll go into another hospital and make the other hospital accommodate this, and that is that when the baby is born, they don't want any other sounds stimulating the child for the first few days. And the only sounds that is imprinted onto the child is the sound of father and the sound of mother. And that little nugget of technology is so potent. It is so potent. And I have heard rumors, I don't have these receipts, it was just floated across my dashboard long ago somewhere, that Scientologists are known to eat the placenta, that the mothers eat the placenta to transmit the full estate onto the child, which kind of tells me that the Scientologists have been on the super soldier program a lot longer than we'd ever imagine.
Sure. And, you know, this is something that we had our doula do for the last birth. They first thing actually was that spread the placenta out, made a tree of life print on a big piece of paper, which was like the best thing ever. And then
Placentart.
And then, and some of it went to make a salve. Some of it went to be pulverized to make pills for this exact reason. So yeah, this is high level technology, you know.
That is what is up. What can you tell me anything about the salve? This is a huge, ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. Can you tell me about the salve?
What exactly did you use the salve for? Did you just kind of put it on Dexton a lot? But what was the primary use of the salve?
Anything. I put it on my skin as a moisturizer.
She used it for moisturizer, just about anything. And around the baby when spots that looked like they needed it just all the time.
It has like essential oils.
Essential oils in it also, so that it was, calming and soothing all at once, but it had the power of, what, the whole time,
man. Yeah, man. And
the knowledge you won't get in college.
Was it pulled from the mucosum?
The invisible college, though. They got that knowledge.
Indeed. No, I'm not 100% sure, and I would be glad to ask the doula exactly what she made this from. Do you know exactly where the essence of it went into the salve? Do you know what it was? Was it the same pulverization for the pills, or did she use the meconium? Like what? Meconium.
No.
No.
Meconium is
Wait, meconium is no. Is that the word you used?
Meconium is poop.
Meconium.
It's the poop.
That's the like
No.
really sticky.
What's the word you
tar poo
said?
Meconium.
Empty when they first are born.
Yeah.
I got to see.
My baby got that all over me when I was holding her for the first time. When she first came out, she pooped instantly.
Nice.
Get that out of me.
So something I've learned, fellas, is that the London, the British Scientific Society, I think that's what they call themselves, that back in the 1660s-ish, right around the time of the London fires and the pandemonium and Milton's Paradise Lost and the birth certification and sending the prize law and the lawyers, all that, right in that time, there was a fella, his name might come to me as I'm talking. He discovered what is called the weapons salve. And the weapons salve is a collection of very rare elements and substances that you can use in the field during battle to heal an open wound automatically. And the description of it leads me to believe that there is placenta in the weapons salve. They don't put it in the list of ingredients, but I happen to know that the other cultures way before them have been doing this forever, and it's just called the patois or the fetish bag. And it's also the little Dorothy bag that bagpipe wearers keep with them. And so this fetish bag, this fetish pouch, this one fella, he discovers the weapons salve and he starts writing about it and getting published. And he is the first person, fellas, who started to circulate the word fact. This is the proliferation of the word fact was circulated into the world by the man who invented the weapons salve. And the weapons salve has placenta in it, but I think it also has maybe I think they use mustard powder because
all right, let me just see if I can infer what you're implying here.
Yes.
Placenta theft at the hospital. Placenta goes God knows where equals sympathetic magic resonance weapon for life against that individual unless they become conscious and reclaim their authority over it.
And
spiritually.
It is rooted in the word fact.
Yikes.
We have turned all the facts into fetishes. But the problem is you can't make a fact. You can't create a fact without an affidavit. Right. The affidavit is the only access, or by attaining a license and whatever, going to college and getting laurels and honors put on you. And now you start to become, essentially, it's all industrialized. And so, the fact, in the first person to proliferate the word fact, even before Newton started picking up and using the word fact, was right there in that time when the London fires were about to kick off. And they sent the lawyers, the pirates, out to collect facts. And what is a judge? A judge is a finder of facts. And that is all rooted to that, to identifying with your birth date.
And I would dare say that
you trade the placenta for a birth certificate.
That's what's up.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting, man. That's very interesting. And interestingly, that time period, that's so long ago, because I had a friend, I forgot what I was going to say actually, but I did want to say this too. I had a friend who unfortunately passed away, and he went to war. Is this
a gnarly story?
No, he went to war, and he said that one of the technologies he witnessed was an instant open wound healer. It almost looked like webbing, he said. He said it looked like Venom's suit coming on.
That's a trip. That's a
You
trip.
know, just open. And he said he saw a hole like basically this big, just get boom, you know, like filled
It's
immediately.
like that was like in the Halo novels.
Yeah.
Back in the days, they had like, you know, they try to explain what's the med pack you pick up in the video game, and it's this
Right.
biofoam
Right.
that just like expands in the open wound cavity, which creates the pressure and stops the bleeding. But then it's also like an organic material and a growth accelerator, or who knows, stem cells in it. But
That's a trip. I remember
but
the
I feel like
guys.
that technology has got to be pretty advanced. But why would that be in a hospital when it's probably pretty cheap
Right.
and actually fixes things, and that's not very profitable, right?
Right.
So
War term. I'm sorry. Wait. War term. Preemptive strike. I kind of think of affidavit can be a preemptive strike.
That's
Thinking of
what's
war
up.
terms.
Good
Just wanted to throw
call.
that in.
Yeah, good call. That's exactly what it is. Anticipating the battle.
Right.
When Jen was pregnant and it's very sensitive, she's always been a sensitive person, but particularly sensitive while pregnant. There was this rule. We had a house rule where if I was going to tell a story that was like gnarly or scary or dark, I had to do my eyes like this while I said the bad shit.
That's good. That's good to use that.
And
That's
then
good.
it was like it diffused everything.
Right. That's
Just
good.
squint and raise your eyebrows really high,
good.
and it's fine. Just sent me pictures of our baby.
That is
So there's another thing about being a dad that I didn't know was going to happen, where because I've had to leave the house, go run out to do errands or do some work, this or that, and it's happening right now. But when I'm apart from baby, I actually have the visceral feeling of baby on my chest, like rooting and wiggling and pushing her little hands on me and making coos, and I could see her in my mind's eye. It's so crazy. Like I literally cannot even conceive of a sense of separation from baby, even though we're not in the same room right now. Like I can feel, touch, hear, all of it. It's nuts. It's like permanent. It's a permanent tether. And Jen's like, yeah, it's called being in love. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. It's awesome.
Sort of a separation anxiety at a very different level.
Not anxiety though. It's
Well,
just like I don't even. I feel good.
Yeah.
It's great. I just feel connected all the time.
Right.
But the cool thing is that it serves like a compass. Somebody could put you in a blindfold and spin you around, and you could be like, "My baby is right there."
Man, I can do that with people I just like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
regular amount. I used to do that at music festivals. 16,000 people. Where's Kabir? And I would just like turn in a circle and point a selenite crystal while I was turning, and I would have like it would feel like there was I was on a pivot and someone was pulling me by a string, and I point in a direction, walk that way, and I'd run into them.
Nice.
It's a thing. The heart compass. It's real.
Nice.
I want to shout out Tippecanoe Herbs, all right? Because while we've been in the process of pregnancy and in postpartum, there are some extremely helpful things over there that they sent us in a care package, starting with the baby bump tea. This was a godsend. I mean, we just bought lots of it, but they gave us a lot too. And we went through this like crazy during pregnancy. Nettle, oat straw, raspberry leaf, alfalfa, rose hips. Highly nutritive, very helpful for all of the lady parts to do what it's got to do. So this is like the ultimate pregnancy tea. It's good for women in general. It's not just about being pregnant. Postpartum, it's great. Super awesome. I even drank some of it. Like when I had a bit of like a cold type flu thing for a couple days, and drinking this really helped my lymph nodes clear up. So this is just awesome tea. This massage oil bun in the oven, belly oil right here. Same deal. Helps the lymph flow, helps the skin expand without stretch marks or discomfort. Really helpful. Nourishing herbs in this one. Calendula, plantain, rose, chamomile, vitamin E, rosemary, raspberry leaf. It was kind of like nearly the same thing as the tea, but in massage oil form. Totally epic. And we've been using this on the baby bum. Baby butt softy salve. This stuff is awesome. Gentle salve to keep that baby butt smooth and keep the poo from sticking to it. We haven't used this yet because baby hasn't needed a bath, but this is a baby bath tea. And according to Kyle, this helps keep that new baby smell. You boil this up and add it to the water. And they've sent this like, postpartum stuff for Jen as well. Milky Way tea helps the lactation happen. So anyway, there's all that and a ton more if you're not pregnant or about to be. that's okay. There's lots of good stuff on Tippecanoe Herbs, all handcrafted, mindfully made, wizard stuff. Really amazing. And Kyle and Serena are having a baby in a couple months. They're
Wow.
not far out either. It's the baby
Amazing.
era. So support them using the Innerverse coupon code. I also recommend over at Family Fungi, because they also sent us a nice care package. They've got quite a few things too. I don't have a coupon code for them, but it's all right. Check out Family Fungi. They have some stuff Tippecanoe doesn't and some overlap. But we got a care package from them, the All Mother Tea, Don't Gripe Tea, a Sage Energy Tea for Dad. It's been awesome. I also really like the Up Dog Tea from Tippecanoe. And then speaking of people that sent us kind gifts, your lovely wife sent us a care package too. And we just appreciate it so much, man. The love is crazy real. While I'm on the shout outs train, Rick Bonner, Pennsylvania, sent us a very generous donation for our new baby, as well as Stacy P sent us one. And very recently, Jared Poole, one of our co-members or good birds over at the Gnostic Academy, sent us a super healthy, generous donation for our diaper fund. He's got a couple of beautiful daughters too. So I'm probably forgetting people, but I just got to say thanks to all the donators out
incredible.
there. Like Topher was right. The baby comes with a bag of gold. It's like God is just ready to fill the gap of like, oh, you have increased needs? Well, here you go. It's
That
just
is-
showing up.
That is exactly right, man. So true. The universe provides right where it's needed.
That's why I like the conception, by the way, of the cosmos and God as one, because then you can just say it interchangeably. You know, it's the same thing. But for like the sort of new age persuasion, you say the universe to try to tiptoe away from a religious connotation. But, you know, what about just acknowledging the divine intelligence that is orchestrating all that, the mind of it? Anyway, I don't care if people say universe or God, but like in my mind, I just switch back to God, but I also mean universe. It's the same.
So, Chance, I want to tell a story from my Bullet Man training that might lead us into the Halloween
Segue us, dude.
I
And then
like
we'll have
segue.
George Yorgo. I like to call you Yorgo.
Yorgo.
It's more fun.
Baressa.
Then we'll have you introduce the Coon book too. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
this then that, I'm gonna mute and just chill. I'm like
Right on.
I'm too excited.
You know, I never really, until I just made that slip of the tongue, I never really corresponded Hollywood and Halloween.
It worked, didn't it? It
It's
worked.
right there. I mean, even the ween has a double vowel.
Yeah.
And the
yeah.
wood has the double O. Yeah.
Wow.
Also, a ween is a name for your wood.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. It's your hollow wood.
Wow.
So yeah, I was talking to Chance before the show how I'm a little embarrassed to be this old in my life and only now catch on to the significance of how elections are made by design to correspond to All Saints Day, Dias los Muertos, Halloween. And if you study what day is election day and why does it adjust through this week, it's making its adjustment mandated by this Catholic observance of death.
Yep.
And it just blows my mind how ceremonial we are. And even the word cera has much to do with wax, memory, imprinting, carrying knowledge from the ancestors and reenacting it. Like the word in Latin, celebre, is to remember, you know? So when we celebrate, we are commemorating these rites. And so in a strange way, I just want to make this claim that after multiple generations of doing Halloween and the theatrics and the kids and the stress and the scare and the sugar and the drugs, the three free-floating drugs in the street, and then there's this weird hangover ceremony on leap years in particular that we go and we ask for a hero. We go elect a hero to come and wash out these streets and put things back on track and maybe get us on course so we can give thanks for Thanksgiving and whatever and get on for the hardest times of the year. That's the other time. And the other thing is
or a scapegoat. We're either getting a hero or a scapegoat.
yeah,
It's 50-50.
That's so true. That's exactly right. And then it's set up in the timing of the year that we're about to have all these feasts and all the family get-togethers, which is funny because there's actually 3 things you don't talk about at the dinner table. It's politics, religion, and everybody forgets that the reason you don't talk about politics and religion is because they share the common vernacular of sex. Politics and religion are completely erotic. They're very erotic at their root. But nobody likes to talk about sex around the dinner table. So let's just keep politics and religion on the same category. So, all right.
It's not a round dinner table, is it?
So yeah, I really, the pharmacos and the yes.
I heard PK saying that pharmacos is also a scapegoat.
It is
by definition.
Yeah, buddy. Yep. And he's a scapegoat because I always point out that his back is turned to us and he's walking away from the other 12. So he's literally, his body posture is enacting escapeology. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that because right now I kind of see the immigration crisis or whatever that whole thing is just a repackaging of Black Lives Matter from the last cycle, and we can just see that it's the same costume. They just give it a different name and expect us to believe it's a different character. So I just wanted to share some of my revelations around how Hollywood Halloween is priming us to beg for some external salvator. Yeah. Nice. Good to see you, my Cherie. And then I wanted to share a story with you guys about when I was in the Bullet Man training. This was my first time actually going live with blank rounds. Because usually we would just play with like an empty gun, or sometimes there's a laser on the end of the gun that when you click the hammer, the laser actually shows you where your bullet would have landed. So we're doing firearms training with a gun that has a laser beam. So we're basically clicking at each other, like click, click, click.
Right.
It's not really, there's no adrenaline, it feels silly. You're still pretending. Well, this was the first time in the scenario where I'm actually going with blanks and it's gonna go bang. And I'm a Z Bruja for Halloween this year. I'm a Z Bruja. So my first scenario, and this time, and it's a blank, but this gun is gonna kick when I go for it. My scenario is I'm walking down the street. I got carry conceal. I'm totally legit. I have every right to be here, and I should be feeling safe. And we're in a huge air hanger dojo. It's very spacious, and so I'm about 30 yards away from my assailant, my scenario assailant, and it's Peyton Quinn. He's the guru of gurus in this art, and he comes walking out from the bathroom. And he's given me the drunken assailant treatment. And I know some of these scenarios. We have these little characters that we go into to mug people, to literally mug them with a different character every time. But I've never seen this act done before. He comes walking out from behind the bathroom, and he's on that swagger, and he goes, "Whoa!" And he pulls his gun out, and he rips 3 into the sky. Bam, bam, bam. And I almost pissed my pants. He just shoots 3 times in the sky. Bing, bam, bam. And I drop down to one knee, and I actually pull, and I point my gun at him. And I say, drop it right now. Put it on the ground. And he looks at me, and he goes, "I'm gonna kill everybody's ass." And then he starts to point his gun at me for the first time. And I'm going to pause the story right here, because I did not have permission to shoot him until he said the sentence, "I'm gonna kill everybody's ass." Up until he displayed intention, up until he displayed his intention, he could have been a new grandfather. He might have just found out that his daughter's pregnant and he's going to have a baby, and he's walking outside. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to have a baby. Yeehaw. Get the beers. This round's on me, everybody. and I would have been a real dick to just burn him down in that moment. And so that is the kind of scenario-based training that we did up in the Bullet Man facility. And I just want to mention that because that was exactly what I thought of when he came out and shot 3 in the sky. Now, keep in mind, I do not know what's in his mind. I don't know what trick he's going to launch on me in the scenario. But as soon as he shot 3 in the sky and I draw on him, I thought in my head, this guy could be happy. This guy might be happy. He's not necessarily pissed. And because bullets are flying, doesn't mean I'm going to die anytime soon. And that's why I was able to point at him and tell him to drop it. But I had no reason to pull the trigger yet until he said, I'm going to kill everybody's ass, and started pointing towards me. And that's when I could click. So I
There's
just went,
more than one kind of madness.
right.
Madness goes both ways.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny because that was what was in my mind when I didn't shoot. And that's what he told me was in his mind as an actor. So it's like somehow he psychically conveyed the exact obstacle that I perceived as his potential killer. It was so psychic. It was so pressurized. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Pretty wild story, isn't it?
It's not always all body language.
Right,
You
right.
do need to
Now,
hear
if that had been
something.
real, though, you have to do this while you tell it.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. But and in a certain way, kind of, sorta, he was donning a mask of sorts.
Right.
This was an act. This was a costume party, even though it might not have been. I don't know what you guys were wearing, but he was embodying a character, I assume. So
Yeah.
there's another factor there where when you're acting, your emotions, and I've been in several acting scenarios, and when you do that, your emotions can easily take you away from what you're supposed to be doing because you react as yourself as opposed to the character you're playing. So there's times when you have to think twice. You got to think, am I doing what I'm supposed to do as an actor, or am I doing what I should be doing as myself? It's tough. It's tough. You got to overthink yourself sometimes. That's where take 2 comes in, I guess. Unless there's guns involved. Real guns.
So Chance, I sent you just a few little visuals that'll kind of lead us in through some Halloween info weaves, if you will. And you can pull them up in any order. Most recently on the Crow 777 show, they were talking about the doctrine of necessity and going in deep on the doctrine of necessity. And so I took it, on my own.
Was it a law episode?
It was a law episode with KL.
Mhm.
Have you caught up with Clint lately?
Yeah, kind of.
Do you see what he had to say about some of the Crow law guys?
Yes.
Oh man, that was brutality.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'd like.
Yeah.
Dose of reality. But
Yeah.
I'll let you continue. I know you got a great weave here.
Totally. Yeah. So the doctrine of necessity is a super potent rabbit hole. To each their own. I invite you to look into this because it tethers into a great many things, including what is it called? The habeas corpus. Yeah, it's a pretty powerful dynamic of law. And it dawns on me that it is an acronym for DON. The doctrine of necessity spells Don. And we know that this motherfucker is the poobah of bank corruption and bank corrupcy. He helps us walk through bank corrupcy. FEMA is named after the goddess who increases and multiplies information. FEMA increases and multiplies information. And now I want to take this fact that FEMA means multiplication or even embellishing on information. I want to take the multiplication of FEMA times the doctrine of necessity. And then I don't have it on here, but the actual vernacular around Occam's razor. The actual word for Occam's razor is we need not have extra entities beyond necessity. To have Occam's razor, to be parsimonious about your theories, is to say that we should not exceed that which is necessary. We should not multiply beyond necessity in our search for truth. However, when you multiply the doctrine of necessity times FEMA, you get a deluge of theories. You get a deluge of people looking for their own answers.
It's crazy because of all of the, the equivalency of this goddess with rumor.
Yes.
And gossip and all of the truth or gossip about FEMA this, FEMA that. They're going to put you in the camps, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, it is really fascinating. So the actual, like when you look up Occam's razor, it's been English, turned English, but look at its actual Latin, the way it's phrased in Latin specifically and exactly, because you will find elements of FEMA multiplying rumors and the doctrine of necessity living right there in the maxim of Occam's razor. And so what I'm saying here, I think what I'm getting at is that you take Donald Trump, the doctrine of necessity, and you multiply it by disasters, and you're going to get the opposite of Occam's razor. We have inverted Occam's razor through through social engineering, such that now all of this conspiracy culture is born out of the inversion of Occam's razor. So, I just wanted to kind of share some of these thought forms, and then
Dude, that is so profound what you just said.
I know. I just have to put it in words and hope it unpacks in other people's brains.
I'll try to translate to.
Thank you.
I'll try to Occam's razor your weave right here a little bit.
Please do.
Okay, so what Gabe is trying to get at is that there is something going on in a either intentional social engineering sense, or that this is part of the. And I think this is going to apply really well when we talk about what Halloween represents and why we dress up like demons and monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. There's some, because I think that it's beyond just actually like the intent of human beings in a top-down control system. It's part of more of an archonic thing to the universe that I don't mean that the way most people think, but to parse it down in simplified terms, that the truth movement is itself a spiraling out of control of complexity of conjecture, rumor, and gossip that is made it in itself the antithesis of its own intent or mandate. That is perfectly exemplified in the entire Q culture, which is why I think it's great that you're using the Dawn as the example here.
Right. And
so
also
the truth movement is a big ball of conjecture and rumor with very few kernels of truth in it, ironically. The opposite of Occam's razor, because the real truth is like super simple. I'll tell you the truth right now in just a few sentences. Nobody's in charge. Everything's going to be fine. That's it.
That's what's up, buddy. There's
the truth.
No, it's true. It would seem that if you, and it's hard for all of us, everyone here, crowd, people that aren't here right now, it's hard for all of us to not ingest a bunch more of what is going on right now between us, for example. And it seems that in the past, let's just say 3 years, a little bit after COVID kind of slowed down, it seems that there's just more theories than ever. And I personally take a stance against theories on my show. Not that theories are bad. Theories are important and they're very good. But, when theories are pushed as fact, never used to use that word.
High octane speculation's my jam, but pushed as fact.
Yeah, to push it as fact is the issue. And this is what science has accomplished, and also maybe MTV and Nickelodeon too. We'll give them a little credit. But I think
and when you push these rumors as fact, bro, they become the weapon, weapon powder, or whatever the fuck Gabe was talking about. You're giving people the sympathetic resonance of the thing as if it was real, and it damages them as if it was real. Yeah,
the theory is an affidavit.
The frequencies, that hurted me.
The theory is the affidavit, and then the fact becomes the weapon, and it's not even a fact, and it's everyone just yelling at each other all of a sudden.
Right. And
there's a virus. It's going to kill everybody. Now I'm super sick.
Right.
Kind kind of like in Ghostbusters when she tells them to choose their own demise. They're like, okay, just don't think of anything.
Whatever you do, yeah.
The guy's like, oh, I couldn't help myself. So yes, thank you, Chance, for kind of ciphering that. I'm seeing that what has happened is they're reversing Occam's razor in a negative ritualistic sense to give birth to, I think of inverting Occam's razor through necessity and rumor and FEMA is basically the end of the Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, when the containment unit busts open and there's ghosts flying and everybody's got their own theories and we're all trying to explain. But I want to say something. When the people who have control, who have regulatory capture on what is accepted as a fact and what is not, when they perpetually show abusive incompetence, then the responsibility of seeking a truth and making a theory and trying to make sense of the nonsense falls on the humans. And I just want to remind everybody that when we say they, people presume we're talking about other humans when we say they, but that, those corporations, they operate in a whole nother paradigm. So they're not even human because they don't even consider karma. When we say they, a lot of people presume that we're assuming that the they cares about karma at all. And that's really what they are. They are, the word they is a throwaway for karma, that this is the karma doesn't touch the ground with the they at large. So I wanted to share that. And then there was one more weave.
That's like almost every time I'm interviewed on a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. They, this, them, that, hurting me.
Right.
And I have to just sort of like in my diplomatic way be like, nope, it's all you. You're good. Right. It's all fine. It's all good.
Yes. And that's the corporate personhood, corporations.
No matter what the they or them, guess what? You have never had anything diminish your power to have a good life. That's always been on you. So
right.
I don't care about they and them.
And there's no receipt. That's the other aspect of they and them. There's no receipt. This is influence. They're operating in equity. And when humanity made a list of, I think it was 6 psychopathic traits, we realized, oh my God, all the corporations, they check all 6 of these check boxes. And then the corporations got back to the people taking the poll, and they were like, you forgot about our 7th psychopathic feature. And they added another feature to the list of psychopaths. And so when we are talking about we are talking about a great void, a karmic-less, mindless Fugazi. And so, yeah, that's what the they is. But Chance, can you pull up was there another graphic in there in the mix?
Gabe, I have a request.
Oh, yeah.
Can we hold the phone on that? I'd really like to pass the stick to George, introduce the Kuhn work and his thoughts on that book and on Halloween. And then I would like to talk about some of my thoughts from going through that book too, because it's going to tie into what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but I really would love, since we're on fire tonight, I would really love to leave people with like the esoteric knowledge of Halloween, since that's tomorrow. Like, it's fun.
Well, it is tomorrow, isn't it? We're talking about this book, Halloween, A Festival of Lost Meanings, from Alvin Boyd Kuhn in 1922. And I also highly suggest the very short esoteric structure of the alphabet of his, just great.
Yeah, his books are very quick reads, like a day read easily. Yeah. And of course, it's stuff from like 50s public domain. You can pull it up in audiobook form on YouTube for free.
Right.
Like the Halloween one's like a 2-hour listen if you don't want to read.
Sure.
But I kind of recommend reading.
It's pretty short, but yeah, sometimes reading is good because he puts a few words together that you might want to reread the sentence and make sure you knew what actually just happened. And it checks all the boxes, but I think much like Manly P. Hall, he has these what are called pamphlets, I guess, for the time period, something tiny and very impactful, much like my own book, World War U, which is very tiny and impactful. But one thing to really draw it all in to what I was thinking about, what you were just saying, is that we can tie this into birth very quickly. It's very easy to tie it into election madness and all this other stuff, but we can tie the concepts in this book to birth as well, because one of the main topics, whether he actually meant it or not, because it kind of comes in waves and doesn't really necessarily tie it all together, is that there is the spiritual and the physical. and that there is a complete disconnect, whether it's from religion or science or politics or whatever. And I feel like one of the unfortunate successes, up until maybe very recently, hopefully we can approve of this, is that they've convinced people that birth has no spiritual essence whatsoever. And it is just a physical thing. And it's just a
medical emergency
that you need to go to the hospital for. And a bunch of men will tell you what needs to happen. Don't push. It's crazy talk. And Halloween, as this book will clearly show, and well, maybe not clearly right on the first read, but there is a very large amount of spirituality that has been lost for many of the demarcations of our year based on what happens in the sky. And one of the clearer indicators is that this isn't a solstice, it's not an equinox, but it does happen 40 days after September 21st. 40 being a very important number, of course. Religiously, 40 weeks, you name it, 40 has its implications. And of course, the very next day being All Saints Day, and then of course the election stuff. So it really does tie into that too, which is incredible. But one of the main facets of it, he mentions a costume. It's very brief, actually. And I also wanted to mention that he mentions the broomstick, because you were talking about cleaning the streets.
Yeah, I thought I might just read that whole section.
Oh, you should.
There's a couple sections I thought I should just read.
The first time I was on your show, we both had snippets of simulacra and simulation ready to go, and we didn't even talk about it. And now we both have like snippets to read from this book. It's kind of cute. We never
planned that we were going to talk about. I didn't tell George we were going to bring this book up. He just shared it in his Telegram chat, and I was like, "I'll take that." And then as we're starting, I'm like, "We're talking about Kuhn." Last minute gravy.
Yeah, no, you should read that spot. I think that's a good. I have it marked in case we lose the page. But you had mentioned cleaning the streets, and he mentions the broomstick on the witch, representing potentially the broomstick that Hercules may have used to clean the Aegean stables. And I thought that was a very interesting way to mention that. Very interesting. But maybe I will read one little moment here, because I think that it's definitely worth mentioning. Let me make sure that I don't overread. I'm going to read like 4 or 5 sentences here, because this is from 1922. Okay.
Oh, it's from 22? I thought it was
1922.
I thought it was from like the 50s. All right, cool.
He lived a little longer than this, but this one I'm almost positive is 22. I actually don't have the year in the beginning of this not so official copy here. But keep in mind, this is 100 years ago. When medical science speaks of a balanced mind or an unbalanced one, it seems not to have in view any definite force in relation to which it is in or out of balance. We are left to assume that it is evenly and harmoniously balanced with itself, or with forces that flow through it. There need not be this indefiniteness. The duality that is basic to all life tells us with what element or force it must be balanced. It must equilibrate its working with the bodily energies of animal consciousness, that is, with sense and emotional desire. Against these, the soul does battle with its weapons, mind and spiritual will. These higher faculties are not to crush, but to control, order, and utilize the 2 lower forces to promote the interest of both sides. The balance is between soul and sense. The conflict is not to terminate in the victory of one and the destruction of the other. It is going to eventuate in the wedding of the 2 when they have learned to like each other well enough to harmonize their opposing forces in equilibrium and stabilization in complementary fulfillment of the functions of both. And this kind of is what I was getting at, is that there are 2 very important sides to every single corporeal or whatever you want to label it story, and we can find ourselves as above so below very easily as long as we embrace both and don't make them compete, which leads into our election madness, as we're always fighting Coke versus Pepsi. A lot of costumes, a lot of professional and spiritual garb has 2 sides, 2 different colors, black and white, for example, and it represents this, and costumes can do that too, even ancient ones. So yeah, it's a pretty cool book.
It really gets. I want to first remind everybody, because I was off the air while this was going on, but the Internet Archive, archive.org, it's back.
Right.
Interesting that the Wayback Machine would be attacked right before an election, so that we can't reflect on what maybe somebody said, previously. I was really bummed that I couldn't get to some of the heady old PDFs that you can get on the Internet Archive, but this is my first time noticing that it's back up. including this work and all kinds of other stuff by Kuhn and other incredible authors that's public domain. So learn your lesson, or I'm telling myself, learn my lesson. If there's a book you're even like glancing at that you're like, this might have information, download that PDF, save that offline, build your own archive, because this stuff is not a guarantee, even though it's quite amazing that we can access it through archive.org and other sources. So thank God for the Internet Archive. It is back up. And
you know, Chance, I want to comment on that segment that George just read. It rhymes with something that came across my radar today, George.
No kidding.
Yeah, kind of that aspect of like mastering the animal nature. You know, that metaphor. The metaphor is like it's played out to a large degree, but it's also at the same time it's really functional. But that considering the lower part of the body bestial and the upper part is to be ethereal or good, bad is down, good is up, you know, that oversimplification. There was a Nietzsche quote. Chance, can you pull up the one I just sent? It's got the Enneagram on it. So when I started my project, I was fascinated because I had found the name for demons as our vices. 7 vices fit perfectly onto 7 demons. And I had to plug in the other 2, the 3 and the 6, the Diablos and Belial, are the closest assessment, demonically speaking. And I was so fascinated. I was like, well, if you can, it's so obvious and easy to find these vices. Why do I got to work to find the virtues? Why aren't the virtues as easy to find? And I tell you, fellas, it has been a long fucking haul. It has been a long haul. But I found the 9 corresponding remedial virtues that correspond to the 9 infernal spirits. So this is the Enneagram with the 9 spirits. And then I want to read Friedrich Nietzsche's quote, because Friedrich Nietzsche does not give pictures. He doesn't paint graphs. You know, he's just a wordsmith. And he has said many times that somebody might try to come and systematize the system that I'm using. He said the system that I'm using. So I'm of the mind that the Enneagram was there behind the words. And it's just fun to see it visually in one big picture. So I'm just going to read this quote. In spite of all the value which may belong to the true, the positive, and the unselfish, it might be possible that a higher and more fundamental value for life generally should be assigned to pretense, to the will, to delusion, to selfishness and cupidity. It might even be possible that what continues the value of those good and respected things consists precisely in their being insidiously related, knotted, and crouched to these evil and apparently opposed things, perhaps even in being essentially identical with them, perhaps. So this is my interpretation of that line from Nietzsche, and that is that the remedial virtues are indivisible from the vice that creates them. And so there's a saying that is true every time you look at the Enneagram, and that is that virtue is the tithing that virtue is the tithing that vice pays to virtue. Is that it? No, I'm sorry. I said it wrong. Hypocrisy is the tithing that vice pays to virtue. Hypocrisy is the tithing that vice pays to virtue. I would have to say that formula 9 times, walking around this Enneagram 9 times to run the formula to test if it's true 9 different ways. And I'm here to tell you, fellas, it is. This graphic right here is the map to eudaimonia. This is the house of the good spirits.
All right.
And they are inexplicably bound to their vices in these stations.
Wow.
I'm going to translate again, everybody. I think I may be the ultimate translator of Slick's rhetoric. It's simple.
Buddy.
It's called fuck around and find out. It's called all of these vices. They're not you. And when you embody them or wish for them, you eventually find out that that's not who you really are. And it leads you to the virtue. Hypocrisy is the tithe that vice pays to virtue in each of these different binaries. That's what I'm saying. That's what I think you mean, right? Is that the concise summed up That's the thing. Fuck around and find out. That's what we're here for. That's why evil exists.
That's exactly it, buddy. Like, for speaking from experience, I come on the internet and I start telling people about forbearance and pride. I start talking about Lucifer, this number 2. And the more I talk about it as though I have authority or command over it, the more I'm actually making a mental list of myself to be like, oh, I kind of do that a little. I need to work on that. So the more I give advice to people about these vices and these virtues, the more I'm actually doing self-work on a real subtle level to learn about, how does that comport into my experience? And so, yeah, all of the tithing of hypocrisy is of my work is Slick Distant has reflected back to me to be like, oh yeah, well, I'm actually kind of talking about myself if I'm not careful. So
this is human nature too.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
It's a human puzzle.
And all of this is symbolized in the Halloween monsters, ghouls, goblins, demons. So I'm going to get into a few of the things I want to bring up from this Kuhn book.
Yes.
We'll weave on them as we go. But dude, this is such a good Vibe Rant. Oh my God, it's amazing to be back.
Yeah,
especially with you two gentlemen. This is so fun. I'm loving this.
Special occasion, dude. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for me. I'm so happy to be here.
The dad strength. We all got it now.
Yeah.
The power.
Somebody clip that.
All right. So what I really know that George likes the book for this one reason, because of Old Man Shakes Fist at society, that he starts the whole book starts with this. Here we go. It's righteous indignation. All right. This is one of the best quick quotes, not super quick. Kuhn says, "It is not unwarrantable to predict that the time is not far distant when a world of more enlightened intelligence will be able to look back upon the present age, particularly in the Western area of civilization, and label it as the epoch in which the people celebrated a series of religious festivals around the cycle of the year in nearly total ignorance of their true significance. Certainly, whether or not this be the future's judgment on our present state of semantic nescience, it is to be presumed that if the departed souls of the sages of antiquity are in any wise in position to gaze down the corridors of history from their day to ours, they must register uncomprehending dismay at the sight of our ghastly misconception and utterly travestied motives in our commemoration of the great annual festivals their dramatic genius instituted round the year. Burn!
Yeah.
They must stand agape at the sight of our mechanical parade of holidays and the completely distorted spirit and elan with which we go through the perfunctory observance of one after the other in total miscomprehension of the original inspiration and signification of each in turn. It must afflict them with consternation to see how, in the case of every one of the cardinal festivals, a true sense of the meaning to be dramatized by the occasion has been overlaid by some outer, some material, or superficial reference that retains or conveys not the remotest relevance to the primal message. I mean, I think that's vertiginous.
Vertiginous AF, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's Halloween. And you know what? I'm not shaking fist. I like fun, but wouldn't it be great if we could also get this back into the collective consciousness, what it's about? So what it's about. And Kuhn, really his book goes through a lot of this pamphlet goes through a lot of the nuance in some of these ideas, but the overview of what the ideas that are encoded in it are, if we're just going for the headlines, it's not that much to deal with. It's when he starts talking about the deeper layers of what this means in the journey of the soul that he gets more complicated, but it's good. So what's Halloween? He says cardinal holidays. Cardinal is important. He says, this is another quote, "As a matter of fact, it stood as one of the 4 cardinal festivals of the entire year, embodying the significance of one of the 4 cardinal points of the zodiac, the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices. And these 4 were considered the greatest of all the ritual occasions in the years round." Wow. And then George has already brought up, hey, that why is it not on September 21st then? And that's because, and then so then we need to talk about well, what are these 4 cardinal points actually talking about? And I think a good quote to jump into for that is, he says, "What has been largely lost out of the present astrological study is the fact that the zodiac was to serve as a pictorial or semantic representation of the evolution of man's divine soul as it swung round the repeated cycles of life in many incarnations on the earth. If his evolution was to be consummated by the development and final unification of the 12 composite facets of divine faculty through the total experience acquired in the run of the cycles, the process involved the generation of the 4 grades of consciousness, each in threefold organization. What the blueprint indicated then at the 4 corners of the zodiac was the generation successively of sensation, the first grade or form of consciousness at the September point, of emotion or form of consciousness at the September point. Sorry. The first grade or form of consciousness at the September point is sensation, emotion at the December point, mind in March, spirit in June. So to make that simple, he's basically let me try to just pare it down because I'm reading too much, but he's saying that this September equinox point is when this is symbolic. Obviously it's the fall, right? We're going into autumn, and you have your little baby named with the autumn name in her name's beautiful. But the fall isn't about, he's not talking about the fall like original sin, you're bad. That's kind of where things have got off the rails in religion, is misunderstanding that idea. And he does such a good job elucidating like, well, why the fall? So let's not look at it like a fall, but actually like an incarnation. Carne is flesh. What do we do with these festival points? Carnival, right? They're celebrations of incarnation. So this one is the incarnation or the commencement of sensation, which requires a physical body. So Halloween is about being born into an animal body, a material body. And then the next day, All Saints Day, is about the ascension of the soul out of the material body and into the divine existence. What I really like, and again, George already brought this up, but it's 40 days after the equinox. So so it's clear that the ancients were saying, hey, the equinox might be the point of the beginning of sensation, but that begins at the womb. 40 weeks, 40 days. There's the symbolism. So we're not having this festival right on the equinox. We're having it 40 days later because that's when you come into the world and experience the animal body. But you started 40 before, right?
Right.
Right. So I think this is all super cool, beautiful symbolism that that is basically implying that there's a philosophy here that souls, you could say allegorically or metaphorically, that they descend into bodies, right? And that which is dispensing the souls is an eternal unity of all soul, or the world soul. But in another sense, the body is growing a soul. And that's what this is talking about, that like the way a flower isn't there when the bud first grows, right? Like there's not corn on the stalk when it comes out of the ground. The body grows and then the fruit is born out of it. And that fruit is your soul, is your spirit. So one of the things he talks about in this book that's so cool is like the symbolism of all the monsters and goblins and all the things we dress up on as is representative of how when we come into this world, we are actually we are handed over to be governed by lower demonic forces. And that's not a bad thing, but they're actually our teachers. They're tutelary spirits. Yes, the archons are real, but they're not there to imprison you. They're there to teach you. They're your sensei. This is a dojo, right? And so that's what's being celebrated by all this, monstrous iconography, is that we're saying, like, yeah, we're in the body. We're here to fuck around and find out. And then tomorrow we're going to raise up to our sainthood on All Souls Day, right? We're going through the darkness and then let there be light. That's why we celebrate the Halloween stuff at night. And then the next day is the All Souls Day. So I'm trying to recapitulate this into as best of a summary as I can, but it's a really great read. And he goes into so much more detail about this.
Chance, I want to weave on that aspect of like, they're here as your tutelary guides, or like,
give thanks.
Yeah. Right. Be joyful for powerful enemies. Over the past month, actually this entire time frame we're talking about, like starting with the equinox of the fall, moving all the way through to November 5th, is a very long duration meteor shower. It's called the South Torrid meteor showers, and it's actually kind of fading in and out periodically. It moves around ever so slightly, but its origin point is essentially inside of Cetus. Cetus, which is the sea monster. And I powerfully correspond Cetus to the Leviathan, to Hobbes' Leviathan. And throughout culture, all hundreds of years, the word hobgoblin is rooted in Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan. So when they say we have a hobgoblin in society right now, replacement theory is a hobgoblin of society right now. Well, that is
in Spider-Man, the hobgoblin replaces the goblin.
The goblin, yeah.
Dang, bro, dang. So this, yes. So whatever the cetus of a society is the designated monster that the king requires. The king always has to have a good bad guy in
It's
place.
called the fool or the jester.
Yeah,
The
buddy.
fool is the king's foil. That's why fool and foil are the same word.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why in like the closest Roman equivalent, according to Kuhn, of Halloween is Saturnalia, where the king and the jester, or the king and the slave, switch clothes, right? And the fool has protection too. Like the fool, the jester has protection to even mock and ridicule the king, because you gotta have it. You gotta have these lower forces that are testing you and forging you, and you have to accept that. Like if we were to Zardoz this place to a perfectly pure, go watch Zardoz if you want to know the end of transhumanism. It's called sterility and oblivion. Like if we were to make actual perfection where there's no more wants, no more hunger, no more problem, no more vice, it would all end. It would all end. So like there's a real sacredness to what we call and muddy and sully with this sort of religious concept of sin. I'm not telling you to go do sin, but I'm telling you that like folly, evil, mistakes, sin, they're all necessary for the soul to grow. Otherwise, there ain't no souls. There is no birth. The perfect society of the transhumanists in Zardoz with you know the red diaper wearing Sean Connery, one of the greatest movies of all time, they are completely sterile. They have lost the ability to reproduce. That is unbelievable symbolism of what we're talking about here.
Sure. And
Right.
you know,
The
Kuhn
gun and
mentions
the
the
penis
fool a
is
lot
the
too.
same thing.
Yes. Another thing. So I just want to point out that this meteor shower taking place in the symbol for the social contract at large happens every year. It happens every year. And its pinnacle of its expression is on the 5th of November every year. And this year just happens to line up that the pinnacle conflagration in the symbol of the Leviathan, in the symbol of the hobgoblin of the social contract, it happens every year. And this year it just happens that the elections land on the pinnacle of that cosmic conflagration. And I'll never be done appreciating this, but I'll say one last thing. Leviathan is the infernal name for envy. It's number 4. This is where Democritus, the guy who invented democracy, the mocker at large, that's one of his nicknames, is the mocker. He's in this number 4 position. The 4th muse is the muse of comedy.
Speaking of mockers and comedy, the man himself, Owen Benjamin, puts out a comedy special at the equinox of this year called Must Be Nice. Envy. Must Be Nice is the name of the special. Go watch that shit. It is hilarious.
Dude,
it's amazing.
He is the comedian. He is Thalia.
It's the guy.
He's the only one left.
And for him to use the title Must Be Nice
he doesn't even know how tapped in he is.
He doesn't even know the Enneagram. And he's using a banner of envy, the title of his production. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I got to see it live and it was hilarious. But seriously, go pay the $20 and watch that comedy special. You will thank me. It's so good. OwenBenjamin.com. Must Be Nice. Amazing. That's a free advertisement.
Yay.
I love Big Bear. Though. Shit. Also, Dylan's in the house.
Hey.
He asks, what comes first, Samhain or All Saints Day? And I don't know the answer to that, but this is a great, I don't know where I was at, but maybe in one of our Telegram chats, we were talking about like obscure letter swaps. Like we know LR, right? PB, those are obvious, but MW is a more rare one. But look how they spell Samhain.
Yeah.
It's SAM, but they say SAW.
Right.
So there you go. M and W, they can swap. Stick
Right.
that
And
in your pipe.
the H kind of flips on the other side of the letter too, which is interesting. And one thing that is in the book that may answer the question or it may make it more nebulous is that he likens All Hallows Eve to when you're ready to go on a trip, you prepare for that trip the day before. So they go hand in hand. They don't exist without two sides of a coin. Or if you want to think of it in a Saturnalia term, perhaps the ring of Saturn divides that little circle directly in half, the two different halves of the same thing. So I would hope that maybe they are all one thing as opposed to them being separate things.
Greeks, instead of calling things Eve, the Greeks had this word proeortia, in advance of the going out.
Right. And proi is kind of the right before that in the same way. So yes, same word, same idea.
I think, did we already answer Dylan's question? I had to go check my cheat sheet. I have Samhain is the 31st, so that comes before All Saints.
Samhain comes first, but he's asking like maybe what came first in terms of when it was invented.
I
Dylan
see.
says All Saints Day was moved to November 1st by Pope Gregory III during his reign, 731 to 741 AD.
Okay, so what about
Samhain came first?
Yeah, but what about the Gregorian calendar switcheroo where we lost, 11 days or something?
Dylan's on another level. He's like on the trail of who did what and when in the history of it. That is so hard to keep straight. Go to Substack if you want.
Definitely.
But I do like this part in Kuhn's work, talking about the 40 and how Samhain or Halloween comes 40 days after the equinox. He says, let me screen share it. I'll start screen sharing what I'm reading. That's better, right?
Cool.
Oh, that's not it. Okay. It was therefore used in semantic science, the 40, to intimate the involvement of soul or spirit in material embodiment, and thus came to represent the whole life cycle itself. For a cycle, or at any rate, the manifest arc of it, is just that period in which soul, entity, is moved into matter. It would dramatize the whole duration of any cycle of birth, growth, maturation, decay, and death, the entire span from birth to death. The ancient genius for festival ordination succeeded in introducing at least 4 periods of 40 days into the round of the year. This is where it gets important, taking the interval between September 21st and October 31st as the first of these. Second one is the period between Christmas on December 25th and February 2nd, Candlemas Day, or the festival of the purification of the Virgin from the corruption of a mortal birth. The third dates from 40 days begin before Easter to Easter morn, the Christian Lent. There you go. Yep. A fourth runs from Easter, taken as the spring equinox of March 21st, to the 1st of May, which latter date was of great prominence throughout all ancient traditional ritualism. It is probable that several other periods running from the 1st of a month to the 10th of the next month were taken as festival epochs. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And,
learning.
It's really interesting how he kind of stuffs things into certain spots in the book. You just have to read it straight through and really keep you on your toes, but he mentions the Fool a lot, as you had mentioned the Jester earlier. And it seems as if he puts even more importance on the card than I had. And I had read this book maybe 2 years ago and 3 years ago. I skipped last year and I read it again this time of year, this year. And it seems to put a lot of importance on what we could call the leap of faith of the Fool going over the hill, the Fool placing himself on purpose into the mortal world from up high. And maybe we can, all embody that, because much like Indigo seems to have given us her name, there are choices that maybe are out of your control but are necessary. And maybe respecting that during this time of year could be one of the most important ways to head into these, in quotes, darker times, or colder times at the very least, depending where you live. Of course, the sky gives us the information, but it's a really valid thing. The fool just keeps coming up all the time. I mean, and
Well,
a
that's
few
the
other cards too.
it's
But
esotericism too of it's opposite day esotericism, where what's the highest thing you can imagine? It's the soul. Well, what's the lowest thing that we mock? The fool, right? So it's the classic inversion that you got to get up to get down. You got to get down to get up.
Right.
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 And I'm pretty sure it's a 100-day count from the fall equinox to the new year. And that's kind of interesting because FOOL in reverse is almost 100F.
Yeah.
And so it kind of has that 100 encoded in its countdown to the new year.
Cool. I like that one.
Well, check this one out, Gabe. About I'm only going to read this just for the vertiginous burn of it. All right. So talking about Saturnalia, Epiphanes, regarded as a very unreliable purveyor of the truth, the Christian historian Epiphanius, from the Codex Marcianus, states that Christ was born on January 6th, ding ding, 13 days after the winter solstice, which the passage affirms the Greeks, whom he calls idolaters, celebrate on the 25th day of December with a festival which is called Saturnalia by the Romans, Chronia by the Egyptians, and Kekalia by the Alexandrians. The passage dates the 25th as the day when the division takes place, which is the solstice, and that the Christ, born then, was incarnated among men on January 6th, 13 days thereafter. The 13 days were ordained, it is stated, in the cosmic plan from the fact that, quote, it needs must have been that this should be a figure of our Lord Jesus Christ himself and of his 12 disciples, who made up the number of 13 days of the increase of light, end quote. And there's Kuhn, he says, it seems pertinent to say here that what needs must have been is just the product of folly and a travesty of truth that result whenever structures of symbolism and allegory are put into the hopper of credulous literalism and are ground out into the pan of alleged history.
I read that
my
exact
God.
quote to Petra right before we went on. It's exactly the thing I read her.
I love that quote, dude.
I feel like I just heard the doctrine of needs.
Oh,
Needs must have been. Yeah, dude, you just did. It's called needs must have been is the words he used.
Okay.
Epiphanes used.
Okay.
That's so cool.
And
man.
guess what? What's happening with this doctrine of needs is a bunch of rumor and conjecture being purveyed as truth about alleged rumored existence of somebody that nobody has any actual fact or a reality truth to.
Right.
The Occam's razor is like, clearly Occam's razor would say that all of these miracle stories are allegorical to this cycle of festivals and the wheel of the year. Very simple, very, very lump it all together. Great.
Yeah.
But then we have, needs must have been comes into the picture. And now all of this rumor and speculation spirals out of control and no one can even agree the fictional character's birth date. And we're fighting over something that's like pointless to fight about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then history.
And then voting.
Right.
What's voting all of a sudden?
Hold up. Papirophiliac. Thank you for the super chat. This is so generous. Thank you so much.
Give
The
thanks.
diaper fund. Thank you so much. We love you.
Oh yeah,
It's really, really generous. Appreciate it. Love all y'all for being here, but the super chatters, y'all are the star.
Big time.
Dylan says that Epiphanius' name is like saying, I'm above Epiphanes shining.
Right. The egg shining above. There's the egg on again, y'all. It's all that crazy North Star shite. All right. So, I'm pretty sure it's in the symposium that I think it's Agathon, maybe, who says that love was born out during a party, during a festivity, that one of the gods, I forget his name, he falls asleep, he passes out, and it's actually a goddess whose name is like homelessness or poverty, or also maybe her name might be needful.
It's basically poverty.
Right.
Yeah,
her name is poverty.
plenty and poverty are the two gods that Socrates is on about there.
Right, right. Now, I just want everybody to keep this in your pocket down the road as you're researching. Keep in mind that the doctrine of necessity is alive and well. It's alive and well. It's based on a bunch of bullshit, but it's alive and well. It's altering the fabric of the landscape ahead of us, and we can anticipate its behavior. And it was commemorated in Plato's Symposium. What is born out of necessity. And this is kind of it's basically whenever they want to make an excuse for an emergency.
And let me tack on
really what that translates to.
The needs must have been doctrine of necessity. The dawn. This is Q, because it's like, all right, our guy here, he's warp speed maga jabbing people. he's a full on megalomaniac. He's hilarious and he's great. And I'm into tariffs. And there's things he says that I would love to see come true. And I would be happy as can be if the country did well and because he won. Or not because he won and they painted on him, right? But all of the stuff that is bad, that's obvious, like crazy, that he's done or said or allowed, guys, cooties happen on his watch. Lockdowns happened with his blessing. Give me a break, right? But it must have been that he's playing 5D chess. When it's convenient, he's a dupe that doesn't know what's actually going on.
Right.
And when it suits the hero story that they need for their savior figure, then he's behind the scenes actually making deals that, that's why it looks like he's doing shady stuff on the surface, because it's 5D chess. I hope you guys get it. It's like whatever you need, whatever needs must be, will supply the very not simple answer to complicate things. And there's no truth in it at all, but it does make us feel better about our hero figure. You see what I'm saying? It's the same deal. This is Messiah 101, is this doctrine of necessity that Gabe has dug up. It's brilliant. I'm so into this.
Yeah, we talking about rocket ships or presidents? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm tripping that it's an acronym for his name. And many other dons, that's the mafia. That's the mafia.
It means Lord.
It means
Adonai, Lord.
Totally.
Messiah. Excuse me. That's amazing. Acronyms are the truth. George, can you go to the end of this, or do you have it in a PDF at all?
Yeah, I have.
Can you word search this for us?
No, I am holding the book.
Okay. Do you know the section do you have the section where he talks about the witches and basically being knowers or gnosis? That's near the end. If not, I can just put it up in the word search.
I don't have the exact spot. I can scan. I might be able to find it quickly, but if you have it right now, go for it.
Well, I just wanted to let you talk.
Oh, yeah. I think I do.
It's section 43, the three witches.
Right. Mine's called the Witching Hour. I don't know if it's the same thing. Oh, three witches. Okay.
Yeah, section 43. I don't know if it's organized like that or not.
No,
in the PDF it is.
No, it's not for me. I'm not catching it quickly. Tell me what words are near it and I could find it.
The three witches is the header.
Right. Is it right from there or is it somewhere inside? Because I'd love to read. I love reading. It's so much fun for me.
Yeah. It's like page 23 out of 33 in my PDF. It's going to be about 2/3 of the way through. The header of the section is the three witches. Halloween is Witches' Night also. It seems definitely that this eerie character of the witch who plays.
Can we just read from there?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, those two paragraphs would be really good. Or even to go into the Macbeth paragraph.
Well, we do go into the Macbeth thing, don't we? And, before I even start there, I think it's worth mentioning that birth is mentioned in Macbeth also.
Take us through the three witches and then the Macbeth section and the breath section. So that's going to be about a page altogether. I want all of that in here.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I'd love it.
Real quick, I want to mention the headdress of Necbet is as a vulture and a cobra on a Wajed headdress. This is the pharaoh's headdress. And when RFK came and shook hands with Trump, that was the vulture meeting the cobra, and it happened on 8/20 on Vulcanalia, basically where the Analema makes the X. Wow. And so the vulture of Vulturnalia is RFK. And then old Chumpster is the serpent, the snake of pretty much Hydrus, I guess. But I just wanted to share some of that. Yeah.
I want to
Oh,
say
that was
hi
the
to my daughter, Gracie. Hi, Gracie.
Hi,
She's watching
Gracie.
the stream and
Hello.
she's awake, Jen says.
Hi,
Hi,
Gracie.
Gracie.
Hi, Jen.
Daddy loves you, Gracie. You're a good baby.
Big
You're going to be
hugs.
so smart with this education. Who needs
Oh
school?
man. It's we're in, man. Yeah, keep in mind that the three witches being the number 3 of the 3 weird sisters here certainly is a very important aspect to all of this. And Macbeth can certainly elucidate a lot of the
The 3 wise men,
yeah, right.
same thing.
There's a lot to it, and certainly would make you think that somebody very, very special wrote this. So the 3 witches. But Halloween is Witches' Night also. It seems definitely that this eerie character of the witch, who plays so prominent a role in the festival's witchery, is one of those dramatis personae of arcane mystery representation that is to be, so to say, read in reverse meaning, outwardly of an unbeautiful aspect and character, aged, semi-evil in influence. The character is probably not at all on the negative or sinister side, but on the contrary, personalized the divine soul itself. It may be said that she is the god in disguise, the deity masquerading in what the ancient sages denominated the feminine phase of the soul's life. Matter was universally typified as feminine, as indeed it has to be, seeing that it performs the mother function in all living creation, so that when the soul, charactered as masculine always, descends and clothes itself in material body, it is allegorized as having turned feminine. It has put on its earth mother's robes. That the witch, however, is intrinsically masculine is to a degree proved by the derivation and etymology of the word. It is from the same stem of Anglo-Saxon background which gives the German wissen, to know, in our words wit, wizard, wise, and others. Here is a clue that cannot be ignored or slighted. The personation represents the knowledge constituent in man's being, and this cannot be aligned with the body. It must go with the soul, and soul is masculine. In Shakespeare's Macbeth, the poet, who was steeped in esoteric lore, gives us the eerie scene of the 3 witches dancing around the fire, burning under the cauldron of hellish brew, a steaming, seething concoction of all things connected with dark night and dark moon. These poetize the animal or natural ingredients which nature has thrown together to consummate the human being. But around the fire dance the 3 witches, and it seems indubitable that they represent the 3 component elements of the knowing, or king, as Dylan has let us know what that word means, principle in man. Which
Ken is to know.
Exactly. Which in Hindu terms the Atma, Buddhi, Manas, but in English are the spirit, soul, mind. The Godhead was always given as Trinitarian, as Hecate as well. And man himself embodies a divine trinity, an exact replica of the cosmic trinity. And what a vivid representation of our human life this scene draws. In us, the dark, sinister forces and elements of the lower bodily life are stewing in a ferment, are seething in constant agitation, as sense and emotion embroil us in the heat of their hot blood and passion. All the while the triform soul circles round and round, in cycle after cycle, as incarnation brings it again and again down to flit about the bodily fires of lust and sensuous life. And I would love to throw in that if you are a true Shakespearean actor, which I certainly don't know much about in the grand scheme of things, Hecate was pronounced as Hecate. It was a disyllabic pronunciation, not 3. They removed the 3 for this on purpose, perhaps. And I venture to guess that maybe the word heck came from this Hecate instead of Hecate.
And I'll add, this is the most, I think, important point of the section, is that witches represent knowing. The word itself is derived in a similar etymological train of intent as gnosis or Gnostic, which is probably why the witch has been boogeymaned, because it represents knowledge. It represents wisdom.
Sure.
I mean, just like pharmacopoeia is made a scapegoat when like herbalism is associated with witchcraft, when the greatest blessing of our entire pregnancy came through herbalism. There's nothing evil about it. And knowing, oh my God, Kyle sent me like a videos all the time of his little boy Davide and the plants that he knows as a 2-year-old. I'm like, this is a sage, right? We even call the plant sage,
right?
Sage, right? So my point is, there's a lot of inversion that's gone on. And even the concept of the witch, yeah, we look at it like a spooky, evil, bad lady, right? But it's actually a masculine, wizardly Gandalf figure was the real intent behind the idea. Originally.
Potentially, I agree. And also very often green, which could easily represent the fecundity of spring. It's not really a bad thing in any way, right? So very interesting there for sure.
I want to throw in the mix here that, like you were saying, Vissen is a knower. I myself underappreciate the divide between church and science constantly. And in German, the word for science is Wissenschaft.
Wissenschaft, yeah.
And so I think in
science means sciere, Latin to know.
Right. So the Wissenschaft is could be in a more superstitious mentality. The Wissenschaft, the science, would be the witches, right? Those who are renegades of the church. These knowledge holders are the Wissenschaft. And then one more thing, you mentioned green.
They have the sight, vision.
Right.
They can see. We got one that can see.
Totally. I just want to.
There's a Halloween movie. They live. Let's do it.
Right, man. Yeah, we should. I just want to throw in the mix the witch from Wizard of Oz. She was the embodiment of Artemisia and absinthe. And when they poured water on her and she's, I'm melting, that is literally a louche ritual. When you pour water onto the sugar on the screen that goes into the absinthe, it releases the oils and it off gases. And so when they melt,
the other witch is good.
Right.
Only bad witches are ugly.
The pink witch, the Verizon pink witch was good. The collectivism pink witch. All right. I just wanted to throw. But no, the reason why Wissenschaft is the witches, is the science. That's the word for science, is because science is a seance, y'all. I keep telling you, science is a seance, but it's a socially acceptable, refined derivative of a seance. And that is because what we're doing right now, we're taking a dead man's corpus, we're taking a dead man's body corpus, and we're reanimating it, and we're putting words in his mouth so that we can reflect on his achievements, this man of renown. So let the seance commence.
And also witch is Hex in German. It's basically the same word as six or sex.
Yes.
And that's in this book, by the way. I just saw
I'm glad you brought that back up, because in Brazilian mystic arts, it's called Axé. What you were saying about Heka in Brazilian is Axé. And it's just so beautiful how it's the same essence.
Yeah.
Even phonetically, it is the same essence. And so, what they call Heka in Brazil, it's Axé. And we all got
the same word.
It is. Yeah, buddy.
SHK, all interchangeable. Eka, Axé. That's when it's that simple. It's like,
Yes. Oh, and also
make a claim, but it's like the same word.
I also just want to mention the number 6. We are talking about eroticism and Hecate in my system. It's all there.
There's great weaves on the 6 and the Hecate and the moon that follow this part in the book. Go listen to the audiobook, Gabe. You'll like this one. Sorry I didn't put you on a tip before, but you're always prepared. You don't need it. I hear some baby coos. So how about, and which is great and beautiful, but how about I just read this next section? We'll knock it out. We are told that the witch comes riding through the skies on a broomstick. Symbolism probably has a deep message for us in this device of semantic fancy, since it would seem to mean that the knowing principle, which all scripture says does come down out of heaven, was the gift of the divine fire of the gods to mortals, the Promethean fire, and was itself emblemed by the element of air. All words for spirit, soul, and mind in nearly all languages are the same as for air, wind, or breath, as in Latin, anima, Greek, pneuma, Latin again, spiritus. The latter from Latin spiro, to breathe. Man, spiritual, is composed of the essences typed by fire and air, the natural man by those typed by water and earth. And we can well think that the knowledge principle could be depicted as coming down from heaven to make a clean sweep of all the noxious impurities of the carnal nature. Knowledge is ultimately the only broom that will sweep out the psychological muck and dirt of the animal obsession. If this is not the basic meaning intended in the witch and broom item, the recondite reference of the construction must be occult indeed. That mind is the agency indicated as sweeping out, cleansing, purging the filth and rubbish of the animal self is evidenced universally in the literature of the ancient wisdom. One of the 12 labors of Hercules was the job of cleansing the Augean stables. Power weave. And he actually gets into like the hero gods or demigods and all of their trials by animal, or, you know, and then anthropomorphized animals and such. Like this is definitely esotericism about the animal body and the soul, like that dichotomy. But what I love about Kuhn is he's not boogeymanning any of this or making any of this bad or evil. He's like, this is how it works. This is how you grow. This is a necessity, and it's good. It's all good.
It's good. He's good. He knows what he's doing. He's very good wordsmith. I think he should be more hallowed along the lines of the people that usually are in this respect. It's good stuff.
Okay, so there's a comment here in the chat. I want to preface this. I'm not calling you out. Lots of people pass this one around, but this is just a Dawn example of Gabe's thing. Etruscan Vatica goddess preceded Vatican, but there's no ground to this. The Vatica thing was like a blog post years ago that got popular, turned into a meme, and passed around. There is no Etruscan Vatica goddess. There's no inscription of Vatica. Nothing of the sort. So this is not calling you out. Like I thought that until Dylan corrected me. He's like, this doesn't exist, man. So I know it's very tempting to be like Vatica, goddess, underworld, but there's no evidence in archaeology or inscription or artifact or writing or anything. It's just an internet, truther thing of this opposite of Occam's razor.
Right.
It feels like Occam's razor. It masquerades as it's like, oh, this would simplify everything. That's where Vatican comes from, and it's underworld goddess. But it's actually the opposite. It's complexifying something with a non-tangible, not real thing.
I have to disagree.
Oh, really?
Totally. I mean, it's like it's right in the word, and you're being told not to believe the word that you're using is the word that it means.
But I'm saying that there's no Etruscan goddess, there's no inscription, there's no artifact, there's nowhere where this word comes from.
But on the map, right under Rome, is Sicily. That is right under Rome, right under the Vatican, right underneath on a map is where the mother of all monsters resides.
Well, that is true. I mean,
the Vatica.
The spirit of the idea is true. I can get behind that. The spirit of the idea is true. It's just this telephone game of that particular thing is not itself. There's no receipts. There's no receipts is all.
Exactly. That's why you need Slick Dissident on your team.
Well, that was a pretty awesome slam dunk. I'll give you that.
Yes, the mother of all monsters is directly under the Vatican, and you can't rearrange the map.
First-hand source. Okay, well, I want to know about this. If you can, if you actually have a source on this, great. Because like I tried to chase this down, I got a little obsessive about it, and I could not find a receipt. And I was like, must be one of those things. I'm open to be wrong about that. I'm definitely open to be wrong about that.
We can build this out right now. Like pylo erection is the goosebumps, and the goosebumps is what the church wants to have a monopoly on. Every time you get the goosebumps when you see the American flag at the turning point in the movie, well, the Vatican, they want your goosebumps to be associated with their words. And the goosebumps, the language for goosebumps is the porcupine, Chance. It is the porcupine. It is the echidna. It is the Vatica. I can do this for days. I don't need the internet to prove me right. I could do this for days. Let's go some rounds. So pylo erection. Am I saying that right? Paleo erection is when you get the goosebumps, is when the hairs on your back of your neck stick out. And the physiological description of what that is describing the porcupine. And when you see a porcupine, you should have that reaction. You should be, whoa, shit, nope. You should have that recoiling instinct. It's at the bedrock of your epigenetics. And so the Vatica And the goosebumps have been monopolized by Kirke for a very long time.
I also don't dispute that the whole Christianity Vatican thing is founded on an underworld idea, because that's the god and goddess of the underworld is the foundation of all the cults of antiquity. That's fine. It's just that one thing. But I would love it if you had a receipt on that and you wanted to email it to me, chance@innerversepodcast.com. I would like to know more, or even just your anecdote about it. I'm very interested. I wasn't trying to like call you out as wrong. But guys, we gotta like close up shop.
I got
I
one
was
more.
supposed to go shorter for my, help my wife and the baby stuff.
I want to say
too much fun.
I want to say one more thing. This is why Catholicism is not Christian. This is the biggest lie we tell ourselves, because Christians leave the dead for the dead. Mm-hmm. They do not build an empire on the dead. Mm-hmm. And that fundamentally is why Catholicism is not Christian. They are not leaving the dead for the dead. They're holding the dead ransom. And
Dylan just busted out the archive.org that is now functional again. This word Vatica comes on to the language scene, like people writing it as a word in 2017. So this is when the rumor got passed around with the blog.
Right. You know what? The first use of the porcupine for the paleo erection description is in Macbeth. It's in Macbeth that this is the first time they use it to describe this porcupine phenomenon. And the word for it is basically Palpatine. Back then, the word that they use for the porcupine phenomenon is almost the word Palpatine.
I feel bad for people that haven't been with us for a couple of years that know all of the like echidna Medusa weaves that have gone on in the past, so that their minds are gravy right now, and everyone else is like, what the fuck are they on about?
It's amazing.
I don't have time to translate this shit.
And let's not miss that echidna has the DNA in her name, right? The DNA, and she's the missing link between amphibian or reptile and mammalian genetics. Yeah, I could go all day about the Vatican. Okay, hold on. What I just said something about Christianity would never build an empire on death. But I just want to weave this into Halloween, y'all. Think about how transgressive Halloween is against that maxim of the Christ. Leave the dead for the dead. Folks, I don't care if you're Christian or not, you're going to need that advice going forward in this day and age. You're going to need that maxim, and it's going to serve you well to leave the dead for the dead. I'm not talking about the people you love. I'm not talking about the people in your immediate circle. I'm talking about don't let some headline outsource your concern, because that is the game.
So that really kind super chat we got earlier from Paper Philiac. I really like your channel. I looked at it, and my wife would really like this. She's super into journaling.
Cool.
So people that like paper, they like planners, they like journaling, they like the tactile feeling of cool media that's physical. Maybe this would be a fun channel. Maybe it gives you some
looks cool
ASMR vibes or whatever. But thanks for that super chat. I want to shout you out a little more. That was really kind. Now,
one more thing. I got one more on Vatican.
But if you go, Gabe, if you go to the link that Dylan just produced from archive.org, which captured the blog post that I was talking about, which is from, I guess, a website, Ancient Pages, and you go look at that, you cannot go look at that without agreeing with me that it's a distasteful boogeyman, dark history of the Vatican. Like just looking at symbolism with no knowledge of what it actually is about and saying evil, bad, boogeyman, make the cross fingers. And that's where this whole Vatican thing came from online. If there's some truth to it that's hidden behind closed doors, cool. But there's not, and there's lots of artifacts that are in private collections more than out in the public to be seen. So I could grant that it's possible, but I'm getting hung up on it. I just want to I just don't want to do this dissemination of errors, based on games of telephone. I can't stand it. Like it's all I see in the content I used to like. And like the more I kind of start to become like, I got to chase down the leads and the receipts thing. I can't even listen to people I used to like anymore because they're doing it too. It may be well-meaning, maybe not.
Yeah, anyway. Man. Yeah, I hear you. As far as I can tell, the porcupine and the echidna thing is serving as a warning. I mean, it's serving as a legitimate warning of a totem nature. You know what I mean? And I have no sympathy for the Vatican whatsoever myself, whatsoever. But I know that everybody needs a designated bad guy, and that bad guy is pretty played out.
That's a great bad guy. Yeah, great. That's what the Archons are for. I think we made that clear. Enjoy your archonic frivolity tomorrow night, everyone. George, you got any closing thoughts and stuff to promote? I know you're back in the saddle as well.
Oh,
after
certainly.
your dadcation.
Right? No, definitely. I got some pretty cool interviews coming up. I got a few interesting ideas I want to flesh out, as I often do on the show. And if you haven't heard of me or want to check my stuff out, the name you see is what you got to look for. Third Eye Edify. I'm everywhere you'd expect. And one of the guests I'm really excited about is going to be my wife, Petra. I'm going to have an episode, possibly a 2, maybe even 3-parter on the concept of rituals and how even people that think that word is very bad do them all the time and they don't even realize it. And I'm not talking about brushing your teeth and stuff. I'm talking about a little more serious stuff than that. And I might have a few time guest Spiro, my good friend. Yeah. Right. And this leads right into everything we just talked about, but I think if anything, we're not telling you, and I think this is something that we didn't really say, and we probably should. We're not telling you to not do Halloween. We're not telling you that you have to call Christmas, whatever. I can't even think of it right now. Oh my God. But you can still celebrate these things and do what you did growing up, but you have to spiritually embody them for what they really are. And you need to look up. You need to accept that we have something above that tells us things, and that we base most of our rituals throughout the year on that. If you only do that alone and don't even worry about reading this whole book or even listening to half of this conversation, I think you will find, suddenly your life might actually feel a little more calm, and you might not think that the world is in dismay. Little things can change your life very easily. And, solstice. You can call it Christmas, solstice, whatever you happen to do. Tree, no tree, gift giving, gift making. Little things add up to a lot, and be happy because everything really is very good.
Everything's going to be good, and it already is good. Good is what it is. Yeah, what I would add to that is celebrating Halloween's fun. I'm all about fun. I'm on mission fun all the time. Everything can be fun. But also, I'm going to teach my daughter that these monsters and the scary, spooky stuff represents how there's darkness in the world and it can be scary, but that it's there to strengthen you and test you and build your soul. So give thanks for the darkness. The greatest, I have to go through this all the time in biofield tuning sessions for people who have thought that they have developed an immunity to other people's bad energy through their avoidance and aloofness and their walls that they put up. When in fact, what they've done is create a life that is reduced in its potentialities because they think they got to do it alone, or they think that there's only this small bandwidth of life that they can let in that's safe. The best protection from the dark, from the evil, from the scary, from the bad, from the sad, from the mad, and everything else is accepting it. Those bullies in your life that you remember or that you run into, I know it's not the easiest, but you meet them with kindness and acceptance. It's very hard for them to keep being a dick to you. And if they really want to keep being a dick to you and you keep meeting them with kindness, that's so much more effective than ignoring and being aloof. Because they know they're affecting you when you go to ignoring and being aloof. They're like, you can't take it. She can't take it. But you meet it with kindness, gratitude. And if they really want to stay in that vibe of bad guy, good guy, they'll probably have to go find somebody else, and it's more effective. So just be aware, that's the meaning of this season, is we incarnate into this world of trouble and turmoil so that we can become the enlightened souls that we already are, so that we can find our inner light amidst the dark and go, wow, I'm whole. No matter how crazy it is around me, I never lost my wholeness. And I just had to go through the experience of forgetting my wholeness to find it again, because that's fun. It's called a surprise, just like the birth of a child or the pregnancy moment where you realize you have a baby coming. Surprise. Anyway, I'm done ranting. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Kim's right. This was a wonderful experience.
Wonderful.
Thanks for crushing it, fellas.
So I got a couple shows coming up tomorrow. I think I'm going to be on one-on-one, and he never tells me if I'm going to be behind the paywall or on the public side. So we'll find out how that goes. And then on the 8th of November, I'm going on with Emily Moyer, and I am so excited to rock with Emily Moyer. It's very fascinating, guys. The week that we locked in the date to do the show was the same week that my kiddo started her tennis lessons. And Emily Moyer is a tennis enthusiast. So now I got to go and learn. I got to learn tennis so I can speak tennis language. So yeah, that show's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're going to talk about, well, by that point, we'll know some things about the election. So it's going to be a fascinating little topic. We're going to talk about the Austin smiley face killers and all kinds of wild stuff. So come check us out on Emily Moyer on the 8th of November.
All right. And hit me up for biofield tuning, Chance at innerversepodcast.com or innerversepodcast.com/sound-healing. Tip a new herbs, Innerverse coupon code, get your magic medicine. There's lots of other ways to support the podcast, and thank everyone that does. And wow, it's good to be back. I feel better than I've ever felt. And I think this was the fun we just had is pretty good evidence of it. So hope we can do it again soon, gentlemen. I know Gabe's always down, and George, we'll definitely see you soon.
Please. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Papa.
3 in the air, right?